Hey guys and girls, welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney. We're going to continue from where we left off, which was episode 3. Let's do this. I'm excited. I forget what this one was called. I think it was like the Runaway Room. The Runaway Room.
Glancing over my records of the late last century, I am faced by the events of a certain bitter winter. A murder in a carriage as it sped through dense London fog in the dead of night. Though the victim and the perpetrator were the only ones inside, there were multiple witnesses to the crime itself. However, none could have imagined at the time that such a seemingly obvious case as this would end in such a horrendous manner. My friend, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, once said of the incident, "I believe that perhaps that case was indeed the prelude. The beginning of a long concerto that impressive Japanese student and I were to play together."
Ooh, this is cool looking. Yo, look at him.
Amazing. Is this really just a railway station?
Railway station or not, I've never seen such an enormous building before.
I like the new look.
And look at all the steam locomotives. This country is incredible.
I feel like I'm dreaming.
So this is the capital of Great Britain.
So, where to?
Oh, hello.
Climb aboard. I'll take you wherever you want to go.
In that case, the Supreme Court in Whitehall, if you wouldn't mind.
My pleasure. I suppose you're visiting students from abroad, eh?
Yes.
Thought so. Well then, I hope you enjoy your stay. And welcome to the centre of the world.
Great Britain.
Britain's mighty capital,
London. This is going to be great. I'm excited. February 18th, 921. British Supreme Court. Lord Chief Justice's office. What an incredible place. It's so imposing. It's almost suffocating. This place is breathtaking. It looks like a fortress. There are some stone buildings like this in Japan now, of course. But they've only been built in a few short decades since we opened our borders to the outside world. An authentic example like this has quite a different impact, wouldn't you agree? A far cry from the wood and paper most of our buildings are constructed from. It's certainly unfamiliar. But I think there's more to the differences than just construction materials. Yeah, we're in a freaking clock tower. What is this place again? This is the Lord Chief Justice's office, Naruhodo-san, in the Supreme Court of Great Britain. The Lord Chief Justice. We had instructions to report here at this time if circumstances were different. We were supposed to let the Lord Chief Justice know that we had arrived from Japan. But Kazuma can't. No. So instead we are here in a different capacity. As envoys, to report the news of Kazuma-sama's death. Yes. And having delivered his or her message, an envoy's duty is done. So we'd have to return to Japan. If we want to remain here in Great Britain, I have to take Kazuma's place as the law student selected for the study tour. Yes, which means you need the requisite qualifications as a lawyer, which is what I've been studying for. Here in Great Britain, it is the Lord Chief Justice who appoints lawyers. So that's the second reason why we're here, to have you officially recognized as a lawyer. It's the only way that we'll be able to remain here in London. I hope I'm up to scratch. Good morning. Good morning. Sorry for keeping you. Oh, he's fancy looking. Oh. I trust you aren't too exhausted after your long voyage from Japan. It seems I'm 1 hour 12 minutes and 47 seconds late. My apologies. Oh, no. Don't mention it. We're never happier than when we're standing around with nothing much to do. How fortunate. So, introductions. I am Mile Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of the British Empire. Ugh. And I feel like a little mouse under an elephant's foot. Come on, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't be a mouse. It's an honor to meet you, Lord Chief Justice. I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London, the capital of our glorious British Empire. Yes, thank you. Converse with our good friend here, our Chief Justice. So, what are your impressions of our capital so far? How do you like London? I hope. I've been so nervous ever since I got here that I can't remember a single thing about the city. It's simply splendid, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh? We had a wonderful view of some of London's streets from the carriage on the way here. Everything is so impressive and grand, I must say. I'm almost lost for words. I'm glad to hear you like it. The city boasts tramways, piped water, and gas, even cables supplying electricity. We spearhead every revolutionary new technology in the world. Every visitor to London is astounded. Oh, yes, astounded is the word. Thanks for saving me there, Susato-san. And everyone seems so jolly and full of vigor. Yes. There's much excitement about the upcoming great exhibition we will be hosting here in London. Great exhibition? Cultural and technological achievements from around the globe are to be exhibited here in our great city. It will be the greatest spectacle of its kind in history, and will make Paris's World Fair look like a toy shop. Gosh, I can hardly imagine how magnificent it's going to be. Great Britain's capital city is nothing but magnificent. London is the center of the modern world. Even if you do say so yourself. The sun will never set on our great empire. Perhaps it is fate that in these progressive times we welcome visitors from the land of the rising sun. Lord Chief Justice, I think you were expecting a student of law for the study tour, weren't you? Absolutely. A Mr. Kazuma Asogi, if my memory serves. That's right. The British government has already been telegraphed a full report on the situation. I understand the young man lost his life aboard the steamship bound for our shores. It's amazing. The news reached him before we even arrived. My country naturally extends its deepest condolences to yours. Oh, thank you. And you honored this appointment specifically to inform me of the news? Yes. We are here in the capacity of envoys from Japan to report the sad news in person. They tell me you Japanese are a people of protocol and courtesy, and I see that it's true. And it is with some regret that I must inform you that the death of the young lawyer means the study tour arrangement can no longer proceed. If you would just hear us out, Lord Strongheart. What do you have to say, madam? It's about the study tour. Mr. Naruhodo here would like to make a proposal. Would he now? Well, Mr. Naruhodo, this is it then. The moment of truth. The thing is, Lord Justice, Lord Strongheart, I was wondering if perhaps you would consider allowing the study tour to go ahead? Don't misunderstand me. Britain would ideally like to see the tour go ahead, but without a lawyer from your country, there's nothing to be done. Well, in that case, what if there was someone else? Another lawyer from Japan, I mean. Is there something I don't know? Only a single lawyer was invited to Great Britain from your country. And that was Mr. Asogi. At least that is what I've been led to understand. Well, the thing is, this really isn't going well. I just can't seem to find the right words to say to this man. Mr. Naruhodo, I could ruin things here if I'm not careful. What am I going to say? If there's someone else here from the Japan who could be described as a lawyer, it's Miss Susato. It's me. I can do it. I can do it. Is that so? I mean, I don't actually have any qualifications as such, but... No qualifications, you said. And yet you still claim to be a lawyer. I have acted as a lawyer in court before. Only once, as it happens. And I had Kazuma to help me. And I was the accused, but glossing over the details. I've been spending every spare moment on the journey here to Great Britain studying. I've learned all about British law and court proceedings while I was on board the SS Buria. The voyage from Japan is some 50 days, I believe. Not what you might call a full education. To become a qualified lawyer here in Britain, not only do you need a university degree in law, you must also complete several years of training. I realize it's far too short a period of time, but I can't just go back to Japan. Kazuma, Mr. Asogi's journey had only just begun. Coming here on this study tour was all he thought about. I have to carry on and do everything he planned to do. I know it must sound like I have an overly inflated opinion of myself, but I would do anything to prove that I have what it takes. Any test you care to set me. Just one chance, that's all I'm asking for. Please. 31 seconds. Sorry? Your opening statement there, Mr. Naruto. It was 31 seconds long. Not too brief, not too protracted. A perfectly judged appeal, I would say. Which is a skill that would stand you in good stead as a lawyer. Oh, thanks. So, you're willing to put those words to trial, are you? Well, I'm all for entertainment. Huh? But let me ask you one thing first, sir. Yeah? You say you intend to do everything Mr. Usogi planned to do. Are you firmly set on that path? Well, yes, that's my intention. I see. Am I imagining things? Did his expression just alter a fraction? Or all of a sudden? Very well. You have your wish. I'll give you a chance. A test to become a specially certified lawyer. Whether you pass or fail is entirely down to you. Really? So, what form will the test take exactly? Tell me, Mr. Naruto. What do you consider the role of a lawyer to be? Well, defending people, of course. Well said. So, let's have you defend someone. Huh? Your timing is perfect, in fact. There's an apt trial about to begin later today. No advocate has been appointed for the defense as yet, so this will be welcome news. Today? Straight away? If you manage to secure a verdict of not guilty, you'll have passed my test. What could be simpler? How did I get myself into these situations? Well, could I ask what sort of trial is it, Lord Strongheart? Yes, good question. Ah, I remember. Murder? It's a murder trial. A murder? An extremely simple case, I understand. You really can't lose. That's easy to say. But I should mention, just in case. If the defendant is found guilty, he will, of course, be sentenced to capital punishment. Capital punishment? He'll be put to death? Here in Great Britain, murderers are sent to the gallows without exception. Presumably, you read that much in your short C-based introduction to British law. We can't possibly agree to such a test. We would be toying with a man's life. I'm the Lord Chief Justice, and I've decided it's acceptable. But you can't do that, can you? There's no need to overcomplicate this. All you have to do is ensure that you don't lose. So the defendant may live or die depending on how well I perform in court. If I lose, he'll be hanged. Mr. Naruhodo, you've come to me claiming to be a lawyer. If you want me to take you seriously, you need to prove you're willing to do a lawyer's job. And you say you intend to see through the will of your compatriot. I would like to understand just how far you're willing to go in order to make that happen. He's testing my resolve. What's the matter? You've fallen silent? I'm sorry, but time is pressing. The trial begins shortly. I need an answer from you now. I need an answer. What'll it be? What do I say? Do I agree to this absurd test? I'll do it. Alright then. If I have to give you a decision now, My answer is... I can't do it. I can't get the words out. 15 seconds. Your decision-making needs work. If you want to be a lawyer, that was too slow. So, it's as I suspected, is it? Sorry? You have noble intentions, but lack the resolve to see them through. The test is cancelled. Thank you for stopping by. Go and acquire your ticket for passage back to the east tomorrow. This conversation is over. Yes, Lord Strongheart. Thank you for offering me a chance. Mr. Naruhodo. I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but what could I do? It's alright. I understand. You do? It's not an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. But resolve has absolutely nothing to do with it. What are you trying to say, madam? I think what Miss Susato means is that no matter how badly I'd like to be recognized as a lawyer and stay here in Great Britain, to risk another man's life by treating his one and only chance at a trial so trivially would be utterly unforgivable. And I feel exactly the same way. I'm sure the defendant won't see this trial as a test, as some kind of experiment. A lawyer may fight for his client in court day after day, but for each one of those clients, the particular day they stand in the dock may be the only chance they have to fight to prove their innocence. No, I was wrong. I'm not qualified to do that job yet. I'm sorry for wasting your precious time, Lord Chief Justice. Wait, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, was there something else? It's approximately 20 minutes by carriage to the Old Bailey from here. If you leave immediately, you should still be there in time. But I just said that I was quite serious in what I told you. The defendant in this case has literally no one to advocate for him. What? At this point, he can't hope to find someone to represent him. The trial will begin without a defense. And if that happens, there's only one possible outcome. He will receive the most severe sentence the judge can pass down. But that's awful. But that is the truth. Why does it have to be like this? Please don't expect an answer to every question. The cold hard truth of the matter is that there is only one person now with a chance to save this man from a very miserable end. And that is you. Really his only hope? So, what do you say now, madam? Me? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart? You said it wasn't an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances. And I agree. But in my estimation, it is purely and simply a matter of resolve. Oh, our time is up here. I have a meeting to attend. I must leave in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. So, venture into our great city and enjoy ourselves. He's gone. The Old Bailey. If we're going to do this, Mr. Naruhodo, we must leave at once. Okay, let's go. Thank goodness, we're in time. There's still 15 minutes until the trial begins. I never knew a horse-drawn carriage could go fast. So fast, I thought my teeth were going to rattle loose. Did you hear what I said to the driver when we climbed aboard? Get us to our destination in 5 minutes, driver. And there's a guinea in it for you. It's one of my favorite lines from the Sherlock Holmes stories, and it worked quite well. I'm not sure why you're so pleased. I thought we were going to die. And we had to pay gold for the privilege. Well, at least we arrived before the trial started. Yes, I suppose there's that. Anyway, I don't understand it. The court clerk said the defendant should be here. But there's no sign of him. So this is the Old Bailey. Even this room for defendants to wait in is grand. Are you alright, Mr. Naramoto? I'm feeling tense, that's all. This place gives me the same sense of foreboding that I remember from the Supreme Court in Japan. An oppressive air, almost as if the building itself is going to crush whoever is about to be sentenced. It feels like only yesterday that I was the one about to be crushed. Yes, whoever the man you're to defend is, I imagine he's feeling very alone at this moment. Top of the morning to you, madam, sir. What are yous doing, following me here? Tings are fair desperate, are they? Sorry? Would you look at those expressionless faces? From the east, are yous? We're from Japan, yes. Ah, Japan, is it? Right, say no more. So, how much do yous need? No, we're just here because... No need to explain, fella. I'm in there myself. No place to go. Nothing to eat. Barely a penny to your name. And all while in the strange faraway land. Well, actually, we haven't found a place to stay yet, no. Just grand. Let me start by giving yous 1,000 guineas. Say nothing now. Huh? 1,000 guineas? Please, Miss Susato, you don't have to shout. But 1,000 is enough to build an entire mansion in the most prestigious area of Tokyo. What? Just nothing to me at all. I like to ensure I have sufficient funds to weather a rainy day, you see. I have enough wealth to buy the city of London 2 or 3 times over. Could that much rain even fall in one day? Well, even so. We couldn't possibly accept such a large sum of money. No, that hit me in the eye. Don't get me wrong, fella. I'm not giving it to you, no strings attached. I'll be wanting you to do something for me. Oh? To be honest, just a little embarrassing. The trial that's about to begin, you see, is for me, good self. For me, good self here. I'll be in the dock. So now, what I want you to do is come along with me and stand there beside me. Officially, you'd be my lawyer, but that's just a little detail now. Oh, well, the thing is, don't worry about a thing. All you have to do is stand up there next to me, nothing more. Otherwise, you see, the trial's going to start without me having any kind of representation at all. So it was true. The Lord Chief Justice wasn't just making it all up. I'm terribly sorry to have to ask, but does that mean you're the defendant in this trial? Bluster and blazes, do yous not know who I am? Me, one of London's biggest names? No, sorry. We've only just arrived in the city. I see. I suppose it isn't altogether impossible. Which is next to Hyde Park. There in the center of London is another beautiful park. Sorry, the park? It's called McGilded Park, full of blossoming flowers in the spring and singing birds and... I donated it to the city, so I did. An entire park in central London? A city of smiles, that's my vision for London. There's nothing Magnus McGilded wouldn't do for the city and its queer old people. That's amazing. I mean, extraordinary. But now they've the gall to say I'm a good-for-nothing criminal. Me, Magnus McGilded. What is the matter with the London police, I ask you? Alright, don't pass out. Mr. Naruhodo, perhaps now would be a good time to introduce ourselves, while the gentleman catches his breath. Good idea. Mr. McGilded, the thing is, we're actually here in London to study British law. We're law students on a study tour from Japan, you see. So, if you don't have a lawyer for the trial yet, and you'd be happy to put yourself in our hands, we'll do our best. What was I after saying, you daft idiot? I've given you 1,000 guineas to stand up there next to me, haven't I? Well, yes, but I wasn't really offering to just stand up there next to you. Oh, I think I see what's going on here. Sorry? I know what you're thinking. This chancer of a fella claims to have more money than the Queen. But if that's true, why the blazes can't he hire the finest lawyer in all of England? Because he did it. That's the only explanation. Well... honestly, that's true. Yes, exactly. What now? Well, like you said, if you have all that money, but you don't have anyone to represent you, there's no other logical conclusion than that you're guilty of the charges. Well, you call a spade in the East, so you do. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean any offense. I still can't express myself very well in English, you see. And I'm never sure what's acceptable to say and what isn't, so... Is that so? Because you sounded fluent enough when you were telling me what a blackguard I must be. I'm sorry. I can't say that I blame you for tinking it, fella. It is a little strange, to be honest. Why you don't have a lawyer, I mean. that would be the fault of the Reaper. Sorry? Did he just say Reaper? I, the Grim Reaper of the Bailey, Lord Barock von Zeeks. He's the prosecutor. The prosecutor is the Grim Reaper? When Van Zeeks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lamb. And to this day, in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. What? So to reach the desperate situation, where there's no one willing to stand in defense against the fella at all, you could say he's a living legend of the Old Bailey. Goodness, Lord Barock Van Zeeks. He must be an exceptionally talented prosecutor, then. Talented isn't the word you're looking for now. It's cursed. Cursed? What on earth? The defendant is summoned in his counsel. Please make your way into the courtroom. The trial is about to begin. His counsel. That would be me. Oh, just time. Well then, fella. Don't let me down. But I don't know anything about the case. You haven't told me what happened. Until you showed your face here. I'd made up me mind, so I had. Sorry? I decided I'd have to defend myself in there. How would that have worked? But then you made an appearance. A student of law, wouldn't you know? Just no accident. I can assure you of that. 'Tis fate. So don't get cold feet now, please. I literally know nothing about the case, or about this man who stands accused. In fact, the only thing I do know is that I can't just turn my back on him. Mr. Naruhodo. Mr. Naruhodo. The man has no one. He'll have to stand alone in that courtroom armed with nothing to defend himself. Yes. Something that Kazuma would never have allowed to happen. Counsel for the defense, what are you doing? If you're late for the start of the trial, you will lose your right to stand. I'll be right there. It's happening then. My first trial in a British court. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because I have no idea how I'm going to manage this. So this is the highest court in Great Britain. The Old Bailey. The centuries of history in this place is palpable, isn't it? It's so different to the Supreme Court in Japan. It feels both imposing and serene at the same time. The atmosphere almost makes words redundant. Whatever the country determining a person's guilt or innocence is always a solemn affair. May I say something, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, yeah. What? Your eyes look ready to pop out of your head again. I know, but I just can't help it. Oh, it's Santa Claus.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here today to determine the guilt or innocence of Mr. Magnus McGilded. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed.
The prosecution is fully prepared. That must be the Reaper of the Bailey. He really does look fully prepared to dispatch his next poor victim to the underworld.
Counsel, for the defense. You appear to be Eastern. Do you speak English?
Uh-huh. Oh, yes, of course, sorry. But he asked if the defense was ready. And I couldn't be further from ready if I tried.
Those eyes please me. Nipponess.
They shroud your fear, your doubt, your trepidation. They run wild, clinging to some phantom notion of courage. The quintessential look of a sacrificial lamb. The cold shiver just ran down my spine all the way to the tips of my toes.
Now, Mr. McGilded.
Yes, my lord.
You stand accused of murder, a capital offense. You could be sent to the gallows if found guilty. Are you quite sure you wish to entrust your defense to this foreigner?
As I've always said, my lord, 'tis a grand thing to give opportunities to the young. Even if the fellow is a student from some little island off in the Far East. Is it not the British way to ignore the dangers to yourself and give those less fortunate a fair chance? I'd like to think that acts of chivalry do the great British Empire proud.
Listen to Mr. McGilded. What a fine gentleman London has in him. Did you hear that he donated £5,000 to the government the other day?
It seems as though everyone in the public gallery is firmly behind Mr. McGilded. That's definitely welcome news, and he certainly has a way with words. I'm surprised he couldn't convince anyone to defend him.
Eloquently put, Mr. McGilded. And most laudable sentiment. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm sure I need hardly remind you that you 6 members of the public have been selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, my lord. If the task is to send rotters to the gallows where they belong, I'm more than ready. At the manor, his lordship always says he would dispose of rubbish promptly. Naturally, I agree. Any criminals here will soon be wishing they never set eyes on me. I feel a chill. Oh, don't mind me, my dears. I'll just be getting on with my knitting. Must finish these mitts for my grandson. Mr. Naruhodo, those people are the jury, yes. That's something we don't have in Japan yet. That's right. I've only ever read about it. But here in Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors. The judge passes sentence according to the law, but the jurors determine guilt based on common sense. So the defendant is ultimately judged from two completely different points of view. But how exactly do the jurors give their verdict? That I don't know, but I'm sure it will become clear as the trial progresses. Yes.
Prosecutor Van Zykes. My lord. It's been a number of years since we've seen you in here in the courtroom. I thought you'd renounced your fame. I'm known as the Reaper of the Bailey, my lord. Infamy rather than fame, I would say. But yes, 5 years have passed since I last spread my wings in this capacity. So what brings you back?
Is there some change of circumstance of which the court should be aware?
I leave that to your imagination, my lord.
So the Reaper has been out of action for 5 years? Why did he have to choose today of all days to make a comeback? Don't lose heart, Mr. Naruhodo.
As you wish, sir. The court nevertheless welcomes your return.
Now then, opening statements, I think. A summary of the case, if you please.
Certainly, my lord. As your lordship is aware,
This is a case of overwhelming simplicity. We must be the only ones in here who aren't aware.
the incident took place in the late evening.
"3 days passed. The hour was some minutes after 10. The victim was a maker of building bricks, known in the community as Thrice-Fired Mason. Sorry? Thrice? He was a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible. The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus in service on the streets of London at the time. A dagger that had been thrust into the victim's abdomen is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Here's the autopsy report from the investigating medical officer at Scotland Yard.
Thank you, counsel.
I shall accept that and the photograph as evidence. The photograph of the crime scene. And one further item of evidence. The prosecution wishes to submit these as well.
And these are... Good lord, is that blood, counsel?
Yes, my lord. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. These gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested. What? Mr. McGilded's gloves had blood on them?
Yes, I will accept these as evidence.
How did I get into this? I'm backed into a corner before I've even started.
Continue.
According to the drivers of the omnibus, there were only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time. Only 2? Obviously, one of those passengers was the deceased brickmaker. The other was the accused, Magnus McGilded. Well, rather damning circumstances to say the least. Defendant, what say you? Well, of course, I have no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilded. To be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening. But whenever I'm in a carriage, I'm taken with a fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it. Are you claiming to have been asleep? Just the motion of the carriage, my lord. Little tin. So it is, and when I opened my eyes again, it was a desperate sight before me. The body of a man I'd never laid eyes on before in my life. Now I ask you, what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fella bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about me gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand. So the blood got onto the gloves after the man had been killed. Unfortunately, that statement of the driver's is only the beginning. What? That's not all of it. There were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed. Order! Order! When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage, and there were witnesses to the crime. This is not just a case of compelling evidence. It's the nail in the coffin for the accused. Thank you, counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we will hear a testimony from these witnesses first of all. Your wish is my command. Bailiff, bring the witnesses in at once. Witnesses, your name and occupation. My name is, well, everyone calls me Beppo. I drive an omnibus in the East End. Bruce Fairplay. I'm a banker in the city. My name's First. Lady First. I make hats for gents. Let's begin by confirming the facts. 3 days ago, at a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, all of you present in the stand were in an omnibus and witness to the aforementioned incident. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Quite right. Yes, sir, that's right. Very well then. Let's proceed to your formal testimonies, please. Each of you would tell the court precisely what you saw. What the witnesses saw. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had few customers. I remember it well. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his gut. That's right. He stabbed him. I screamed, I did. Couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus and then I saw it too. Unambiguous testimonies, I must say. Exactly, my lord. These men witnessed the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes. Well, I mean, they're all like, they could be lying. I don't know. I'd like to ask a question, if I may.
Yes, Counsel.
Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
Why not?
Well, the incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it? As has been clearly stated from the outset, yes. Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of the moving carriage.
How quaint. I'd read that civilization in the Eastern Island nations was a good century behind our own. But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses?
Huh?
Tell me, my Nipponese friend, have you even traveled in an omnibus?
Well, no. We, only arrived in London this morning.
No matter. I've arranged for us all to see for ourselves the actual scene of the crime.
What? Do you mean... how?
A carriage is designed to be moved after all. Presumably you understand that much.
Yeah.
The omnibus in which this bloody crime took place is here today, in this very building.
Here? What? The entire carriage?
Bailiff! Bring forth the stricken omnibus.
Well, straight up a whole carriage here. Oh, you can have people up top, right?
So that's an omnibus. The omnibus. I can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here.
Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing.
As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers. 4 passengers seated inside in the enclosed cabin, and another 4 on the rooftop deck above. Every Londoner knows that the best views of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top of an omnibus. And I should point out to our foreign guests that there is a skylight in the roof, allowing a view of the interior from the seat above. A skylight? Oh, the penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats on this omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight.
That makes perfect sense.
Well, Counsel, this is a first. In all my years behind this bench, I've never experienced the crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. That is the prosecution's wish.
Very well. I see no reason why not. This omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence. Whole damn bus. I can't believe it. The entire crime scene entered as evidence. Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary.
I could help myself a lot by giving that omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here.
I could. If if I go to the court records, could I do that now? I can. All right. All right. Let's look around this omnibus. Right. So. Phoenix Wright omnibus. That's pretty funny. I can certainly see inside the carriage through this opening, that's for sure. Yes. And there's a lamp in the enclosed cabin. So I'm sure the witnesses would have been able to see quite clearly. That's not good for us. Is there no way to look inside of it? Do I hit the doorknob? Okay. Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? Ugh. A scene of a murder. It's horrible. That's blood. That's soaked into the seat. The victim's, obviously. Yes, and that seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck. Would you really stab somebody in full view of the other passengers like that? I wonder. Well, it was after dark. And there was a lamp on in here, so perhaps the culprit couldn't see anything outside through the skylight. Whichever way you look at it, it doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. That's a poster. A lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower. Alrighty, I believe people all over London must be fizzling with excitement. Two gentlemen to sit. Of course, an English gentlewoman would be dressed in such finery. It would be quite impossible for her to climb up to the roof deck. Okay. What is this? The seat has a handle. Oh. This looks like all sorts of equipment that might be needed to keep the omnibus running. Feeding tubs, tools to repair wheels. Okay. Wait, why does this one not have a handle? Can't be opened from the inside of the cabin. Okay. Is that it? There's no way that's it, right? I don't expect this Nippon straight to understand the intricacies of a British court's cross-examination rights. Alright, my first cross-examination in a British court. Focus, Ryunosuke. What the witness saw. It was the last bus of the evening, so I had few customers. I remember it well. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his gut. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed. I did. I couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, and then I saw it too. Alright, so when it happened, the only two people in the enclosed cabin area were the victim and the defendant. And so help me, 3 whole people witnessed the man I'm trying to defend do the deed. I don't like to be pessimistic, but we do seem to be in a rather difficult situation here. What am I supposed to think here? Is Mr. McGilder really innocent? Could it be? Before we jump to conclusions, our first task should be to gather information. Yeah. We're gonna press everything and just kind of gather what we can.
Hold it!
Sometime after 10, wasn't it? Oh yes, sir. That's right, sir. Yes, ever so cold it was, sir, freezing. And you had 4 passengers on board at the time, is that correct? Yes, that's right, sir. Not all traveling in the same parts of the bus, of course, though. I don't see anything odd with them. And there were no other passengers when the incident took place? No one outlined, for example. You're quite right with that, sir. No other passengers like that. Somebody fled the scene of the crime, then. I have to say the bus insists on it running. He does. Every evening, that last bus of the day.
Excuse me!
Oh god, I didn't mean to do that. Okay.
Hold it!
And you saw them through the skylight in the roof of the carriage. That's right. When you sit up on the top deck, the window's right there at your feet. Oh, this is fucking cool, man. Alright. There's a lamp on the inside, so I had a pretty good view. The 2 of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. But there's not a shred of doubt in my mind that it was Mr. McGilden. How can you be so sure? Well, how can I put it politely? McGilden is a gentleman of rather small stature. I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else. Let's not forget that when the vehicle came to a halt, the only people inside the enclosed cabin were the deceased Mr. Mason and Mr. McGilden. There's no room for doubt there. really wish there was. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his gut.
Hold it!
You actually saw the exact moment it happened? Didn't I already testify to that? Or are fair dinkum, hard-working city bankers not considered trustworthy these days? Oh, no. I didn't mean that. This is no good. I've really got his back up. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail? If that's... My lord. Juror number 3, what's the meaning of this? My mind is made up, my lord. Completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich. Never have. They're always up to something or other that they shouldn't be. Every other. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. What? There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter. Hold it. That is precisely what I was about to say. As the foreman of the jury, it is my duty to set a good example for the fellow jurors. What is happening here? Let me see. Ah, yes. It seems that's how the members of the jury give their verdict. With fire. With fire? Apparently, yes. White for innocent. And black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their mind about the case, one by one they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice, as we saw. So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Let's do our very best to make sure that doesn't happen. Now I'm even more worried than I was before. Very well. The court acknowledges the change in the jury's stance. Counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination. This is a nightmare. That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did. I couldn't help it.
Hold it!
He stabbed him, you say? And you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you? Yes, that's right. I remember seeing the little gent sitting next to the fellow that was stabbed. I'd been thinking about a new hat design, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then I happened to look down through the skylight. It was sticking right out from his belly, that huge great knife. A grim sight indeed. That didn't help me at all. The jury looked like they're even more convinced by my client did it than they were before. That appears to have made everyone even more dubious that Mr. McGilda is telling the truth. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions. Mr. First. Oh, yes, sir? Is this the knife you saw? Oh, good grief. Yes, that's it. That's the very one, sir. Is that... Yes, counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like a stake through the heart. That is a blade of considerable size, counsel. It is. And furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M, which seems oddly familiar. Please, no. M for Magnus, perhaps? Or McGilded. seems this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake.
Objection!
But there are M's everywhere. Yes, like in Mason.
Objection!
This blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. No, this weapon of murder almost certainly belongs to the accused. Ugh. Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, counsel. A largish knife that was found lodged in the victim's abdomen. My lord, if you'll forgive the interruption. Juror number 2, go on. Mr. McGilder is a pillar of society and a gentleman, and a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truths. Wait, what are you about to dispose of the rubbish? No! I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. Oh, I'm about to lose. I've painstakingly typed every word uttered here today and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in a position to draw the only logical conclusion. Not again. That's 4 out of 6 jury members who've proposed a guilty verdict. There are only 2 left. We've had it. Every time I press these witnesses for more information, I just make the situation worse. Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at the moment is more information. We're still very much in the dark. I suppose I'll just have to keep pressing the witness, knowing that more sparks may fly. We mustn't give up hope. That we'll uncover something that will give us a way to fight back. But... alright, I'll keep trying. I can't give up. I just need to keep calm and listen to the witness statements again. That's the last dude, right?
Hold it!
What exactly did you see? That would be the passenger, sir. Yes, collapsed on the floor. He was. Stabbed once in the abdomen with a knife. Died due to internal hemorrhaging resulting from the trauma. But he's not on the floor. Right? By the passenger, obviously you're referring to the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. And then the other passenger had that knife in his hand, like this. By the other passenger, obviously you're referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilded. And then he plunged it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the belly. What? Order, order. It is hard to believe one of London's greatest philanthropists, but this is damning. The law knows no philanthropists, my lord. Only the innocent and the guilty. Good deeds mean nothing when overshadowed by evil. The truth is everything. Couldn't agree more, sir. The truth. Alright, so when it happened, the only 2 people in the enclosed cabin area were the victim and the defendant. So help me. 3 old people witnessed this. There's gotta be something I can present that out. Yeah. Couldn't this be a W as well? Turnabout cases. I've only got the old lady on my side. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. Oh. The gentleman donated it to the city, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he said. Can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life. That's right, a man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know? What kind of a man Magnus McGill really is? What kind of a man is he? The philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, sir, and one with the very darkest of souls. What? Stone the Crow? McGilded lends money at extortionate rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He's a vulture that preys on the weak. I've never heard any mention of that before. Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madam. So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus? You're not saying that the victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his creditor was the accused, Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment date for his debt. Oh. The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house. He had not a shilling with which to repay his debt. And in the end, his pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him, his life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender, Magnus McGilded. I don't believe it. Hold it! If I might add something briefly. Mr. Sato? You claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded. But where is the evidence to support your claim? Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice in a court of law. Here it is, Lord Van Zyke's hallowed chalice. How can this be considered acceptable? But I find myself in an unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself. As judicial assistant to the defense, I'm simply doing my job. What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all money loaned by the accused. You'll find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Oh. Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising the chalice in a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. A marvelous toast, counsel. I would gladly accept this new evidence. Ah, yes. 20 guineas. The victim owed a considerable sum. Apparently not all gentlemen at all, are they? After all, not everyone in this country is well off. Goodness, what is it? Look at this. Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. Hey! Should that mean something to me? Aye. Yeah, it's the witness. The banker. That's interesting to note. Okay. That might be all I can get out of that. And the accused made quite certain he had ample recompense. Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes. Regrettably, madam, that is the modus operandi of the accused. And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. Still, maybe it's all for the best. Wait a minute. Let's think about this a little more before. I don't stand for nonsense. Wait, I'm not... That was it. The last juror's decision. According to this encyclopedia of British law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here. The final verdict. It's over then. Oh. There's a footnote, though. A footnote? However, the defense... Can turn this over, man. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial by delivering my final verdict. I trust there are no objections. Miss Susato, just tell me one thing. Oh, yes? You were in the middle of saying something before. A footnote in your encyclopedia. However, the defense... What did it say? Oh, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended. Then the footnote says, however, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. A summation examination?
Objection!
A summation examination. From which century has that tome you have there been resurrected? Ah! Judging from the bindings, I would say that book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten, and certainly no longer practiced. So you're out of luck. Oh. What even is it, Miss Susato? This so-called summation examination. Oh, one moment. I'll read about it. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understand what it entails. Typical Nipponese. Alright, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand. It seems that under this procedure, we would be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what exactly? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decisions. And it says here that, if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. make them reverse their decisions?
Yes, in times gone by, barristers would use a summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. That procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefit, really, so it rather fell out of use.
I wonder why.
Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age.
Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that, although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
A summation examination, our last possible option. Do we assert our right to carry it out?
Yeah, we do. I have evidence. The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord.
Objection!
London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedures. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried.
Objection!
But if it's our right, it's our right. I believe it could prove vital in this trial.
The defense's petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with the summation examination. This is madness. Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready?
Well,
I'm not. There was no mention of this in the letter I received, you see, so. All members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision. On what grounds? You must all justify your decisions and explain why you believe the defendant to be guilty.
well, my lord, you're rather putting us on the spot. This is most irregular. No mention was made of this.
I don't really hold with all this justifying lark.
That seems to have thrown the jurors off. It seems none of them have experienced this before.
All right then. The summation examination. A defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe. It might be the opportunity we've been looking for to turn this trial around. So be it then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. The court hereby calls upon you to state the grounds on which you find the defendant Magnus McGilded guilty of this most serious crime.
There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory. It seems 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. He stuck the chap next to him, just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. I've simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far and drawn the logical conclusion. You can trust the guild. Fares is our motto. We haven't raised prices above 4 pence for years. The scoundrel. Stabbing that poor man on the floor beggars belief. I'm starting to wish I hadn't pushed for this. Some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully formed arguments, though, do they? Well, let's see what we can do. We need to get these 6 people to change their minds. I have to throw everything I can at them and use some very persuasive language. Just a moment, Mr. Naruhodo. According to my book, that's not quite how it works. Oh? I thought I was going to have to thaw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about the defendant. Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says. But then, they've reached their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, it could recoil on you. Then what on earth am I supposed to do? Oh dear, I'm just citing what I've read about British law, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how to make this work, then? Well, from what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your argument. What do you mean? Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public, They may appear to present a united front, but the truth is, they are complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here. And that's the way to break them down, you mean? Yes. We must listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says, and see if we can identify any contradictory statements. If we can, we then contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other. I see. So it's contradictions in what two or more jurors say that we're looking for. In a way, then, this is similar to a regular cross-examination. Oh, yes, I suppose. Find contradictions in their statements and pit the jurors against one another to break them down. Alright, I might be able to pull this off. No, that's not right. I have to pull this off.
Can we start proceedings, counsel? I would ask you to take the stand for this. I'm expecting a clear and concise rebuttal. Yes, my lord.
Jury examination.
The defense's rebuttal. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him.
Pit. Actually, let's just start pressing everyone. Certainly the testimonies we've heard suggest the victim and Mr. McGilded were alone inside the carriage.
Precisely.
But could there be some other explanation? Something we haven't considered yet?
Such as?
Perhaps that's something we could all work out together.
Now listen here. Maybe you don't know how things work around here, boy, because you're from foreign climes. But we're to form our opinions as individuals, and I have.
Oh dear, he doesn't appear to be in the mood to consider an alternative. No, I'm going to have to pit the jurors against one another, like Susato-san said. Finding contradictions in these 6 people's assertions is the only way I'm going to succeed. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. Typed and collated all the statements made thus far and drawn the logical conclusion. You can trust the guild. 4 pence for years. Alright, we'll keep pressing everyone.
Hold it!
But does his ability to recall his takings that night really tell us how trustworthy the man is? I manage all his lordship's cash affairs, so I'm very particular when it comes to accounts. I see. A single penny can mean the difference between life and death after all, can't it? That's a saying in your country? My point is, a man who minds his figures is a man you can trust. Those of us in service would swear to that, sir. Does that bench really need any more polishing? So if the good driver says that he saw Mr. McGilded in the act, I don't doubt him. The only task left to do today is disposing of the rubbish. Now wait a minute. One of the other jurors mentioned something about money, I think. Now would be a very good time to listen carefully to the juror statements. Okay. I should expose it by pitting them against each other. Okay. 4 pence for years. think it's this dude, right?
Objection!
Those two statements clearly contradict each other. They do. Explain yourself, counsel.
Me? Oh dear, what have I said?
I swear on Silver Blaze's mane and name, I haven't the first idea what you're talking about.
According to the group's testimony, we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus on the night in question. Yo, I like this. And according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20 pence in fares. Quite right. I have those precise details typed neatly here in front of me. And juror number 5 also told us the following. The fare for the omnibus is always 4 pence.
That is it. That it is.
A fare in a convenient single price, just the way London's carriages should be operated. But that doesn't add up at all. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts.
Why, man? Why?
4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication, it would be 16 pence. There's one more passenger that rid on this thing that we don't have. The figures are different. By 4 pence, in fact. Or precisely, one person's fare.
One person's fare.
Yes, in other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible there was another passenger we've heard nothing about.
Good gracious.
Dun, 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 dun.
This can't be right.
The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men. One and all, trustworthiness is our watchword. The figures your coachman claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is a fallacy.
I beg your pardon.
Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news will surely spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he let nefarious characters ride his omnibus.
Alright then. How do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end?
Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire onto the innocent side of the set of skills.
No, hold your horses there. Coachman, we were all in agreement.
Why do you have to go in?
Wait till I get my hands on you. Beppo!
Hey, got one.
This is all very irritating.
Begging your pardon, sir. I'm going to do the same. Two.
For the love of Mike, not you as well.
A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exact standards in financial matters.
Oh, really?
I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. If we can manage to change 2 more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. 2 more, actually. There is something else that's bothered me about a couple of their assertions. And that's where you must strike next. So we need to pit 2 more jurors against each other and show there's another contradiction. Exactly. You can do it.
Well, the scales of justice have shifted, but they still weigh heavy on the side of guilt. Counsel, you have the floor. Continue with your summonation examination.
What the slipshod bookkeeper has to say for himself. He stuck the chap next to him, just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. Scoundrel that poor man on the floor. Stabbing that poor man on the floor? That's wrong.
Objection!
Those 2 statements are completely contradictory.
What? Explain, counsel. Post haste.
Oh, dearie me. I was only knitting a jumper for my other half. What is all this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask? I've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3.
What?
Can't you see that I'm busy here? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Ha! Want to test me, do ya? It was like this. Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. Just like the prim banker said. Yes, that was Mr. Fairplay's testimony, quite true. Now then, juror number 6. Oh, is that me, is it? What can I do for you, young man? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madam? Oh, dear. So, as far as I understand it, it was like this. He stabbed the poor man after he collapsed on the floor. The coachman said so. Now, don't move. Take a look at these 2 drawers. He stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up. And he stabbed the poor man after he collapsed on the floor. Well, I never. They're stabbing in totally different directions. What? Bless my stitches. What a muddle. What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. Oh. But why? Why the dickens would they lie? I don't know that yet. But what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen in all good conscience? Lies, you see. Oh, dearie. I can't abide people telling lies. See one more. The scales. I don't believe it. Damn. We evened it out. Wait. Now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him in his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all this? Answer me this, Dark Jinx. Huh? Me? What exactly is the problem? What of it if 2 witnesses have slightly different recollections of events? What of it? Let's say the Shylock did stab the victim as he was sat next to him on the omnibus, and this young dandy saw him do it. Now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor, and then the Shylock stabbed him again, and this old lady saw him do it. Well, what to say? It didn't happen like that. Who are you calling a dandy, sir? I should take this knife to you. Who are you calling Ode? I should take this needle to you. They're ready to kill each other now. Could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the 2 witnesses see 2 different moments of the same crime? No. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman. What is it, you Dark Jinx? Come up with it. What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question. What are you talking about, man? How can you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. So, where's your evidence? That's what we want to see. I say the 2 witnesses saw 2 different moments at the same time. If you say that's out of the question, show me some proof. Looks like the only way I'm going to convince him is to present him with something that he can't dismiss. Some irrefutable hard evidence. As you wish. What? I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that the 2 witnesses saw 2 different moments of the same crime as proven. Right. I think it's this, right? Like the way he died here.
Take that!
It's a clear piece of evidence. Well, Mr. Foreman? Oh, was that wrong? I thought that was right. Where were they seated at? I don't remember where they were seated at. 2 different moments. In other words, the victim was stabbed 2 times. But we have evidence that clearly contradicts that possibility. I guess it's just his coroner report, right? Actually, it's been a minute since I saved, so I'm gonna do that.
Take that!
This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen. Only once. Only once? It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely one time. Which means these witnesses can't possibly have seen it happen 2 different times. No. Alright. I concede defeat. Wait, that means 4 jurors are now leaning to not guilty. We've done it, Mr. Naruhodo. We've won. Hell yeah. What are you playing at, you dandy fool? Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me. But we had a consensus. I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one. And if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair off his head. Please tell me he's a barber. Well, in a quite remarkable turn of events, the defense's examination has flipped the balance of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to adjudicate, and the trial must continue. I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and witness to return to their witnesses, and I call upon all of you to continue to pursue the truth. That was dope. So, Lord Van Zykes, continue to substantiate the case of the prosecution, if you please. Oh, he broke it! Having savored the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hallowed chalice. It may seem crass to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zyke. Is it cold in here, or is it just me? As your antiquated tome no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination. So I honored a deathly silence and listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. Well, no matter. There's nothing so hard to prove as a self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence after all? So, let us proceed to the next round of battle. Oh, bring forth the witnesses once more. He done ripped the cape off. Crazy. Witnesses, I trust you heard the summation examination we have just had to endure. Yes, sir. That I did, sir. Of course. Oh, yes, sir. I heard it. You, sir, on the end. Coachman, I believe it's Beppo. Yes, sir. My lord, sir. If it transpires that in your previous testimony, you were attempting to veil the presence of a 5th passenger on your omnibus, you will be found guilty of perjury. You're advised to bear that in mind, sir. Meal deal. Now then, witness, I hereby call on you to testify before the court again. You will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination. I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it. But, well, I for one was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. He fiddled us on the fare, he did. And I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much. I tell you, I saw McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands. Yes. He stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so, yes.
Counsel, make sense of this for me, please. The phantom fifth passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little cousinage.
Beppo, explain yourself. I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster.
The guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare?
It's so cold. And the last run of the day is always half empty.
You have been dishonest, coachman.
I'm sorry.
You're a disgrace, Beppo, a disgrace, and your selfish actions have brought dishonor on the entire guild.
If I may, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week.
What?
4 passengers at 5 pence each. It's just 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently.
No, that figures. Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel, for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please. We've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. Absolutely.
What does it mean? But, so, there were only 4 passengers on your carriage, but you didn't charge them the standard 4 pence fare. Is that right? It's impossible to make the last run of the day pay. Why is he so scared now? I was so cold. It was all I could do to stop myself from passing out. I'm getting chilbane just listening to you. It was terrible, so I wanted to give myself a pat on the back for even keeping the bus running. Doesn't a dedicated coachman deserve an extra penny per passenger? You're digging a deeper hole for yourself here. If only there had been a 5th passenger on the omnibus that night, we would have had another suspect. I, for one, was told I had to pay 5 pence.
Hold it!
Does that mean everyone on board that night paid 5 pence instead of 4? I just told you that I did. So he bumped them all up to 1 more pence. $5 across the board. It's not something to be proud of. The so-called discrepancy my learned friend identified was nothing of the sort. Much like the Phantom Killer you so desperately needed, it's gone, dead. I'd have been happy if it had ever existed in the first place. He fiddled us on the fare, he did, and then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much.
Hold it!
This blood-curdling sight, you mean the murder, I presume? Yes, sir. A loathsome sight. No one should have to witness the horrors in the eyes of a man the moment his life is taken. Oh, well, not exactly, sir. I mean, I didn't actually see the exact moments the gent was stabbed. Good gracious, really? We have another witness who did, however. The banker has already testified to it. But Mr. First didn't actually see the point at which the victim was killed. That may turn out to be very significant. I heard the banker gent next to me take a sharp intake of breath. See, that's when I looked through the glass. That's when I saw that horrible blade poking out from his belly, all covered in blood. Every time I see a knife now, I can't help screaming, even when I'm eating. Why is he so defeated? Hello?
Excuse me!
Are you okay? Okay, I just was checking on him. He was just kind of like there. I don't know if it was weird for him or not. So yeah, so McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands.
Hold it!
So you saw the defendant, Mr. McGilded, stabbing the victim, Mr. Mason, who was sitting next to him. That's what I said, isn't it? It was bothering me before. This was... For just a brief moment, he hesitated before answering the question. Anyway, there was only the two of them inside the carriage, wasn't there? There's been much talk of a fifth passenger, but as yet, zero evidence. Then what are we wasting all this time for, eh? It's black and white. The man's guilty. Something about Mr. Fairplay's testimony just jars with me. I wish I could work out what it was.
Hold it!
Earlier, you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Yes, that's right. You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant holding the knife in an ice pick grip. I suppose? I might have, yes, put the cart before the horse, maybe. What's this? Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats on the roof deck. I expect that was me, sir. Then when I turned around, yes, I saw it through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor and the knife was sticking up out of his midriff. That's right, yes. And the fellow holding the handle was the famous man. Yes. So in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all. I really thought that I did, but when I go over it again in my head... No, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing.
Truth!
Oh,
Excuse
what's
me.
wrong with you? Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? No, you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. He didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Eh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered. I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? Well, it is a little hard to believe, certainly. Unless you spend your time peeping through a skylight on the top of an omnibus, that is. Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. And I know what I saw. I remember it as clear as a balleret. It was a grim scene. I don't mind telling you. Thank you, Mr. Fairplay. Oh, excuse me. If I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that. I'll tell you just how grim it was. Do you think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands after that butcher stabbed the man? He was wearing gloves.
Objection!
And there's only blood on one. Blood-soaked hands? Well, I admit that soaked might be laying on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it. Well, I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar. What? Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question. Oh, yes, right. And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there. But, as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove. Ugh. In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent. Go on. But, no, that can't be right. So you're the liar here, then? Well, that's right. You were quite clear about it. You said, "Here." It was both hands. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth? No, sorry.
Objection!
It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands. It was only one, but the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection!
No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands. Which means there's a strong possibility that this witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court. Why? I'm a city banker. For pity's sake, my word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate. He's claiming to have no reason to lie. But is that really the case? Mr. Naruhodo, if we had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying, we could turn the tides in this trial. Something to show this man has a compelling reason to lie. I have evidence. My lord. Yes, counsel. The defense is ready to present evidence. By Jove, are you sure? Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had reason to lie in his testimony. Very well.
I hereby call on the defense to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court.
Take that!
This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded.
Yes, a list of innocent victims crippled by the accused.
The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay.
Ah, what? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused? Ah, no. Well, it's barely worth of being called a debt.
According to this ledger, you owe 20 Guinness. Not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say?
Ah, well, what of it?
Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case?
These documents state that the loan agreement is forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to a capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. It would cease to exist.
Cease to exist? Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw? In a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 Guinness to the defendant?
No! Order! Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes, my large. Let me ask you again, and be aware that your answer may have the most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you, or did you not, see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim?
Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony.
All right. Now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch.
A pinch?
But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on McGilded's hands. Both of them.
Objection!
And yet only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained.
So you keep saying?
I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir?
Go ahead, Mr. First.
Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself as it happens.
Seeing what?
Blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yeah. I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just one.
What?
What?
It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all of you witnesses. This time I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear?
Yars. Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly, at least. Yes. I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. Right. What the witness really saw was blood on both hands of the assailant. I sincerely and distinctly remember that. However, I suppose you might say that I didn't see the exact moment the stabbing transpired, if that matters. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attackers' hands with blood on them. Wait, both of the attackers?
I didn't actually see anything myself.
Not until I heard that scream. Anyway, the fact remains, there can't have been anyone else inside that carriage. But he just said both of the attackers, didn't he? Or am I reading that wrong? In truth of fact, not one of you was witness to the crucial moment the crime was perpetrated. There was no one else inside that carriage, and the man's hands were covered in blood. That much incriminating evidence is tantamount to saying we saw the man do it. That's really not what testimony is about. Let us examine the interior of the omnibus once more. The victim's fresh blood is clearly visible on the seat, corroborating the witness's account. In other words, there is no substantial nor significant change in the facts of the case. Very well. Your cross-examination, please, counsel. Yes, my lord. What the witness really saw. There's blood on both hands of the assailant. I remember seeing the knife, and I remember seeing both of the attacker's hands. Blood on them. Hold it! I definitely saw that, too. Blood on both hands. Yes, sir. I mean, I know what you're going to say. Only one of Mr. McGilded's gloves has any signs of blood on it. That's right. The thing is, as far as I remember, sir, when I looked down and saw Mr. McGild sitting beside the other fellow, I don't believe he was wearing any gloves, sir. He wasn't wearing these gloves? That's correct. Clearly. It's true that the dark colored stand on the dark leather gloves would have been easy to see. I should point out that the police officer who apprehended the accused on the night in question reported that there was no trace of blood on Mr. McGilded's gloved hand. There wasn't blood on his hand? This is puzzling indeed. This must be significant somehow, I'm sure of it. Release yourself from financial burden by ensuring the defendant was found guilty. Oh well. It's not entirely what I was hoping. I just lost a little guinea or 10 when I backed the wrong horse in the derby.
Hold it!
At the very least, must have enjoyed a good view of Come on.
Hold it!
Allow me to confirm one thing, Mr. Fairplay. You were riding this omnibus and witnessed the events in the cabin through the skylight in the floor of the upper deck. Is that right? That's right, yes. In that case, there's a portion of the cabin interior that would have been out of sight from you. What? By golly, really? Obviously, at this stage, we can't say for sure. But the possibility cannot be denied that at the time of the incident, there could have been another passenger in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus.
Objection!
Enough hypothetical meandering, my Nipponese friend. The prosecution demands that you substantiate your claims. After all, the scene of the crime is here in the flesh. Very well. I will uphold the prosecution's demand. We'll identify the area on this cross-sectional plan. Where exactly is the omnibus? In the omnibus, are you suggesting that this potential extra passenger could have been situated? So this is it right here, right? They were looking down and seeing here. And I guess you could see here. There was a little compartment here where someone could have hid, right? I think. I'm gonna try it. I don't think it's right, though. I feel like it's gonna give me a ding. I just want to see.
Take that!
Both rows of seats on the roof face in the direction of travel, whereas the seat in the enclosed cabin face each other, which means the visible part of the cabin which passengers on the roof deck can see through the skylight is as I've drawn here. Oh, okay. So I was right, but not right, because I was thinking the enclosed like little compartment, but it was more so just hiding under the people there. Oh, that's right, my lord. As you can see, the seat opposite the one on which the victim and his attacker were sitting is obscured from view. In other words, if someone had been sitting on that seat, it's quite possible that these witnesses would have been completely unaware of it.
Objection!
It's quite possible some phantom was sitting there. You Nipponese have a forbidding habit of obscuring the truth with ambiguity. I concur with the prosecution's rejoinder. In a British court of law, evidence is paramount. You cannot entertain this conjecture, counsel. That is, unless you are able to put a name to this mysterious passenger to whom you allude. Can you, Mr. Naruhodo? I honestly don't know. Who could it have been? Who could have been in the other seat, which was out of sight from the witnesses on the roof deck? I don't know. These two were sitting together. A part of me actually thinks it might have been Bruce. But then I'm like, maybe he just was in debt. I don't. Honestly, I'm trying to think of like what, if I present here or not. Oh, actually, you know what? They didn't see him, right? So, quite potentially, they could have saw someone else. So, actually, I have an inkling. Because he was asleep. I understand, my lord. The defense would like to put forward a name. You're a fool. That response was a desperate attempt by a man who has no notion of his own limitations. A toast to hard lessons not yet learnt. Let us not delay, counsel. The defense is still to name the passenger in the other seat. This could be it. This could be the chance I've been waiting for to turn the trial in my favor. Because we've established none of them seen the point of the killing. Like, they didn't see him. They just saw a small person. On the night of the murder, the person occupying the seat in the omnibus cabin that was obscured from view was... I feel like it's him.
Take that!
It was McGilded. The passenger in the enclosed cabin that the witness on the roof deck failed to see has to have been Mr. Magnus McGilded. Mr. McGilded? What are you talking about, Counsel? That's the name of the defendant.
Objection!
If I desecrate this chamber by smashing my hollow chalice, do forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zykes. People talk of those tiny island nations in the Far East as having a learning and culture of their own. But I see they use the term ill-advisedly. What are you trying to say? Let me explain in terms that even a student of an artless backwater such as yourself might understand. When the bloody scene unfolded, the victim and his assailant were sitting side by side. Multiple witnesses have attested to the fact. It's the very premise on which this case is built. But that premise may be wrong. What? If the victim really was sitting beside Mr. McGilded, it creates an inconsistency that can't be reconciled in any way. What inconsistency, Counsel? The defendant's gloves, my lord. Both witnesses made the same testimony. They claimed that there was blood on both hands on the person sitting next to the victim.
Objection!
Yet we know the truth to be otherwise. Only one glove bears the needs. The point is, even in the face of this irrefutable evidence, both witnesses have maintained their stance. Yes, their testimonies remain unchanged. Exactly. They both adamantly swear that they clearly remember seeing blood on both hands of the assailant. In short, their memory of events is correct, and their testimony reveals the truth. It was somebody else sitting beside the victim that night, a third party we have yet to identify. And the victim's blood was on that passenger's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And who was this third party? Obviously, the true culprit. Extraordinary! Order, order! What exactly
Objection!
are you postulating? The defense's postulation is just that, nothing more than conjecture. The witness have clearly stated that they saw the accused.
Objection!
When elaborating on his testimony, Mr. Fairplay said the two of them were wearing hats, and I couldn't exactly make out their faces. Yes. The top of their heads were obscured by the roof. I could see the rest of them, though. Yes, that's right. Both chins were most certainly hat. Hatters do tend to notice such things. And what particular style of hat did the two gentlemen sport, Mr. First? I'm afraid I don't remember. And you call yourself a hatter? The style of hat makes no difference. There was no third passenger in that cabin. How can you be sure? Because if there had been, the accused Mr. McGilded would undoubtedly have offered to depose the fact. Unless, that is, you're proposing an even more preposterous explanation. That the accused failed even to notice the presence of the true culprit in the very cabin in which he traveled. Ah. He's right. If there was another person traveling in the enclosed cabin of the omnibus, it's inconceivable that Mr. McGilded would have been unaware of it. There's clearly a simple solution to this problem. Bring the accused, Mr. McGilded, to the stand. Well, what say you, counsel? The prosecution objects, my lord. On what grounds? As a suspect, he will have already made a full statement to the police. But what if there was some reason why he's unable to speak freely? Magnus McGilded is no uneducated ruffian. If it indeed turns out the man has been withholding information. You can be sure it will have been a most deliberate act. Counsel for the defense, what is your opinion? My lord, should we ask Mr. McGilded to testify or not? Yeah. Yes, we need to hear what he has to say in order to find the truth. The defense would like to call Mr. McGilded to the stand.
In that case, I would like to hear the opinion of the jury.
Yes, I need a little time to consider this. If you ask me, I think we should hear what Mr. McGilded has to say. Get the man out of here. It would be utterly illogical not to hear his testimony.
When something needs doing, get it done. That's how I run things.
Hearing what the patron of my favorite little park has to say. Yes, that would be lovely.
Yes, the jury says the man must be heard. Very well. The court will hear the defendant's testimony. Bailiff, show the defendant to the stand at once.
Now, maybe what actually happened that night will finally become clear.
Let proceedings be resumed. Mr. McGilded, have you been listening to the discourse of the day?
I'm actually going to end this here, guys. We are going to be heading into the next part of the trial. On the next part, I'm going to be doing longer parts, I think, of this, just so I can kind of push out a lot of it. So these are going to be kind of like movies in a sense. I hope you guys enjoy it regardless. Leave a like, subscribe, share with a friend. And on the next part, we hear from Mr. McGilded himself.